Hello and welcome to the Blank Cover Network. I'm BCV Dom and today we are talking about action figures, in particular Marvel's War Machine on the brand new Iron Man retro carded line. Okay, let's take a look. Oh my, look at this guy. Look at this action figure. Look at this packaging. Wow. Those of you who joined me as a child in the 90s, this is the packaging of our childhood. Fantastic Four retro wave, the Spider-Man retro carded wave, and now Iron Man retro carded wave with War Machine. Genuinely, this retro card is like a blast from the past for me. Holding it in my hand, I had so many of this line growing up from the early to mid 90s because I used to watch the Iron Man cartoon. And I had Iron Man, I had Stealth Iron Man, I had Centurion Iron Man, Mandarin, Grey Gargoyle, Blizzard, Hawkeye. This line is a big part of my action figure collection as a child. So the fact that Hasbro, now with Marvel Legends, have brought this packaging back, it is an incredible nostalgic blast from the past seeing this type of design in the packaging. I'm almost speechless. Almost, because you came here to hear me chat and show you pictures of War Machine. So that's what we're gonna do. Oh, I do love this packaging though. This really is something else. Looking at the figure in the packaging, and actually we have a nice array of accessories. We have a rocket or missile blaster with 3 rockets to fire from it and the fire effects as well. And we have a shoulder cannon with blast effects, plus 2 alternate hands as well. So he's got fist hands and the open palm blaster hands. Comparing it to the more recent deluxe War Machine, the only thing that's really missing from this action figure compared to that figure is the exposed Rhodey face, the head sculpt that is Colonel Jim Rhodes, and the jet boosters for the feet, and that's about it. Otherwise, it's very similar to that deluxe version. Also, looking at the packaging on the reverse of the card, they have a really nice small caption explaining who War Machine is, and that's a real throwback. I know they still do it to this day, but the fact that they have a more cartoony version of the face with the little like infographic like it's come up on an old-fashioned computer, really cool. And taking up a lot of real estate on the back is a yellow schematic, as if you're looking at a blueprint of the War Machine armor, but the reality is it's just telling you, the collector, where the accessories go and how to attach them or remove them. It's a nice touch and makes it even more tempting to keep this mint on card. So many memories of playing with these action figures with my friends from this Iron Man wave. I really could do with having one of these mint on card, but we gotta do pros and cons, so let's open up Marvel's War Machine. And here is War Machine straight out of the packaging, so I haven't changed either of his hands and I haven't put any of his accessories on him. This is what he looks like when you get him out of the blister pack. And my first impressions of him are mixed. There's, I think, some big highs and then a few lows as well. Part of that is probably because I really loved how he looked in the packaging, and that's just the luster of my nostalgia. Like, I know that's a very personal choice. I could have kept him mint on card and had a great time displaying him somewhere on my shelves. That would have been a nice choice for this action figure, but we wanted to have a look at what this action figure does out of the packaging without all that dressing around War Machine. Does this action figure actually hold up against other Marvel Legends? Let's add a few accessories to War Machine and then get into the pros. The shoulder cannons went on pretty easily. The sort of nubs that they sit on were a little gummy, so just be aware of that, but nothing you couldn't push up against to get enough friction to put them on. And once they're on, they are sat on his shoulder pads nice and tight, and you can swivel them. So that's pretty nice. Let's add the fire effects to it as well. Yeah, now we are talking. Look at that. How dynamic is this action figure going to be in your displays with these effects? If you missed out on the deluxe that came out a few years ago, this is a very nice alternative for your displays. Pro number 1, because we already started to talk about it, let's say the accessories. You get a nice array of accessories with War Machine. Certainly more effects than you normally would with a builder figure. Yes, I'm looking at you, Speedball. Not only do you have the cannons on the shoulders, but then you have fire effects for both cannons, and they're both very individual, very specific fire effects. So there's a lot of different displayability that you can give to War Machine depending on where you want him to sit within your displays. Piggybacking off the accessories that War Machine comes from, you also get articulation with these shoulder cannons. This is fun and I didn't expect it. Yes, there's some swivel to each cannon. You can move them from side to side, and that's kind of almost to be expected a little bit because of the nature of how they sit on his shoulders. However, you can also push the cannons back and forth on the shoulder pads. That's super cool. Maybe you could do that with the deluxe version before. I don't have that action figure, but I'm very happy you can do it with this version of War Machine for certain, and so I think that goes on the pros list. Another pro, and this is purely my taste and might not be the same for you, I appreciate that, but I really like the more cartoony / comic book-esque color palette that they've done for this figure. I like that the paint app is super simple. It's almost like they've just used dark grey, kind of gummier, flexible plastic and hard white plastic to build the figure, and then accented it with some painting on the head sculpt and on his power pack, his arc reactor in the center of his chest. In fact, the arc reactor almost looks like it has a bit of cell shading to it. Not as much as you'd get with the VHS retro style X-Men line that they've done, but it has this sky blue with a bit of white lens flare. I think it's really nice. Very simple, very small, but worth appreciating. Another pro, and this one goes out to you Minton card collectors, I love the packaging. Like, I love this packaging for this action figure. It's so nice. It really hits me in the retro breadbasket. Whether it's a line or a wave, what a way to kick things off with War Machine in this retro style packaging, this blister pack card. Such a sweet addition to any Minton card collector, and I know you kids of the 90s, you're going to be joining me when you remember exactly what it was like to pick up one of these action figures way back then. Another pro that I really like is the sculpting. Now, I'm not sure where it's reuse and where it's original sculpting, but I do like how they've put this action figure together. It's not Iron Man, it's clearly War Machine, and not just in the color palette. They've got a very basic, very cartoony white face with the black outline of what would be War Machine's mouth, but above that, across his forehead and going over his scalp, is this ridged metal effect, and that's been built into the head sculpt itself. And his torso has this great dark grey, very metal looking, what look like tracks, quite frankly, and you can imagine, because if this armor is so heavy and cumbersome and chunky to wield from within, it's going to be using some old school Iron Man push and pulley systems, like some tracks to help contract the chest and thus give us ab crunch on this War Machine. But sticking with the sculpt, I really like the boots. The boots take up the entire bottom half of the action figure. So where you've got one piece which is the upper leg, the thigh, all the way down to the knees, from the knees to the feet, it is a separate sculpt. And I can't tell if this is reuse or if this is just War Machine. If you know the answer to that, please do leave a comment below and tell me, Dom, they've used that for so many figures and here's the list, or no, you're right, that is just used for War Machine. What I like about War Machine, especially the bottom half, is there's a lot of flexibility within the articulation. You'll get a lot of displayability out of this action figure. Okay, now let's talk cons. The first con on War Machine's list, I think, is the different uses of white in the buck. So the white seems to me to be a little inconsistent. We've got the face sculpt, which has a painted white face on it. Then we have a different shade of white for the torso and right at the top of the upper leg. And then the lower legs have a slightly muckier, slightly muddier white, and it's noticeable, at least it is to me. And con number 2, if you can call it a con, is kind of piggybacking off that last point. I don't think this aesthetic is for everyone. I don't think everyone wants or needs a cartoon-esque version of War Machine in their displays. Whether they're making the Avengers or an Iron Man team, however they want to do their display, this is a very particular look. And some displays, some of you Marvel Legends collectors, I think would be better off going for the deluxe version, which is a slightly more realistic version of War Machine. But that obviously is up to you to decide. You know your display better than anyone else. You know what color palette is going to fit within what you've got on display already. And the legs aren't pinless. Oh, so close. You know how pinless tech is my jam. And the arms are pinless. The arms look great. They are pinless tech of the highest order. And yet, the legs still have pegs in them. Granted, the pegs are the same color as the leg part that they're on, because you've got a slightly brighter white peg in the top half and a dark gray peg in the bottom half, but it's not pinless tech. And as we get closer and closer towards that era of Marvel Legends where it's just pinless this and pinless that, you know we're going to get another War Machine. So bear that in mind, that it is 50% pinless. But no, the legs, they got them pins. Another con is the non-articulated blaster hands, and this is kind of interesting to me because we now have articulated blaster hands for some of the Iron Man figures. So why not use them on War Machine, especially when the hand sculpt is so similar to a lot of the sculpts that have been used on Iron Man Marvel Legends. Here he is with Modular Iron Man and Doctor Strange, and I think both of these action figures really pop alongside War Machine. This is a nice array of colours to be displayed together. Similarly, here's War Machine with MODOK, and this is not an unexpected duo you could expect to fight on the battlefield, so I thought this would be a nice combination. And using some cartoon animation inspiration, let's have a look at him with Shocker and Grey Gargoyle. And I'm not sure he quite works with them. Maybe it's the color scheme, but Grey Gargoyle would be one of his opponents if you were doing a retro 90s Iron Man cartoon display. And now we have the Iron Man animation retro line, potentially. Do you think that this retro style blister card is going to run its course and plateau, or even dip down? At some point, will we tire of this? Are we getting retro overload, or is this Marvel Legends giving us really what we collectors want? I personally am very happy to be adding War Machine to my collection, and because I like the card so much, I might try and hunt for another War Machine to display mint on card on my shelves. If you've enjoyed this review, I have two recommendations for you. The first is when to buy Marvel Legends in order to get the best price for a quality action figure. And the second one is another review of part of my Marvel Legends collection. And I wish you all the best in adding to your Marvel Legends. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll be back with another video very soon.